Don't understand why you're 40 years old playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. But
well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you can study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome back to the Weekend Culture. We took a little bit of a break over the holidays, figure some stuff out, maybe get our ducks in a row, and we're ready to run into 2025, full steam ahead. Should be a good time. So I am here again with John. What's up, John? How you doing?
Oh, I'm awesome as always. Hope everyone out there is doing well. And I was ready to have a great show.
Yeah, I think that, well, it's not just going to be a great show. I have big plans for the channel going forward, more or less. So lots of stuff going on this month, but I'll talk about that later on in the show. We got some stories to get into. So if you guys could please smash that like button for us. It really helps us reach more people. I think that, everybody's got something to say about what's going on with our culture and how that sort of ties into various ideologies and political things and money things and cultural things. I'd like to imagine that I can bring a bit of a unique take on stuff. I want to dig deeper. At the very least, I want to encourage that kind of conversation. So that's kind of like what my goal is, right? And that's why I want to work with John, because he also has looks at things in a different way and lets people see it from another angle maybe they hadn't considered before. And hopefully, we can add to the conversation that way. The more, the merrier, So
yes. I know I've been turning a few heads I know I've been turning a few heads the last few days talking about this current divide in the MAGA culture between those who look at the economic state of things and the humanity-based state of things. And I am firmly in the side of the humanity, and I think that if you're just focused on economics of the situation, then you're really no better. You're just different from any other corporatist globalist that wants to kind of make a surf class and castigate everybody. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Though we could, if time permits.
Yeah, I mean, I know I watched your show on Reality Base, at least parts of it yesterday with you and Spoon and I mean, I have thoughts on that stuff too. I don't want to get into it now because we have stories to get into, but there could be some parallels to that anyway, and then there often are. Nothing exists in a vacuum, right? So,
indeed.
Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's start by talking about this kerfuffle that sort of erupted in the Twitter space regarding the Arrowhead Studios CCO, Chief Creative Officer. So I'll just give you the brief on it real quick, and then I'll give you what some people have been saying, like what I don't want to say all sides, but there have been a mix of opinions on it. So Jonathan Pilestedt, I think that's how you say it. I apologize.
I thought it was Johan. I think it's Johan.
Johan, you're right. It's Johan Pilestedt. Yeah.
I'm Jonathan.
Yes, you are. Johan Pilestedt, the Chief Creative Officer at Arrowhead Studios, known for Helldivers 2, made comments regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in gaming. He emphasized that the studio's focus remains on creating high-quality games rather than external pressures related to DEI. Pilestedt expressed that while he supports diversity, this is like something that everybody has to say, the core mission of Arrowhead Studios is to foster a positive work environment and develop games that are true to their creative vision. His comments stirred some controversy within the gaming community, with some applauding the focus on merit and creativity, while others criticized it for potentially minimizing the importance of diversity initiatives. So nothing's changed since then, but I just want to
I do apologize for any scratching, by the way. I think there's like a squirrel on the other side of the wall.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. I'm just like, what the hell? I can't do anything about it. There's literally like a tree right next to the house, and like birds and squirrels live in it, and just I don't know. It's crazy. Sorry. Anyways,
it's okay. So this happened because he got into a bit of a back and forth with some people on Twitter, and essentially when he went in with his comments, this is what he said. He says, if it doesn't add to the game experience, it detracts. And games should be a pure pursuit of amazing moments. I don't like labels, but mankind is united in its extreme xenophobia on Super Earth. Hashtag inclusion. So maybe that's DEI. I really don't care. Make good games. Don't make a contemporary political statement. So here's the thing that I've seen. And I guess well, first of all, before I get into it, maybe you give me your thoughts on this yourself, like from what you know.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this?
It's been a real up and down year for those guys over there at Arrowhead Studios. They put out a game last February, so we're coming up on just about a year of Helldivers 2 being part of the space in gaming. They came out of the gates really strong. So many people were just like, oh, this is so totally the game of the year. And then, like about 2 months went by and they started putting out their DLCs. And it seemed like with each passing DLC, things just kind of got a little bit stranger because, you pay for the DLC and the next DLC came out and all that stuff that you just got that was kind of all right just got nerfed. And so it definitely, I think, shook up the player base community because they felt as though they were just kind of getting the runaround. And then, of course, the coverage we did on their community manager, Baskinator, and her ilk, who still actually works for them to this day. So, it's like I appreciate what's being said now, but it's kind of like words are easy, words are cheap. People by their actions ultimately. And I mean, the most recent update they put out, I do believe they are trying to make good on their initiative to unfuck the game in the most tactical terms that I can use. And actually just kind of get it to return to the fun and make it something that's like actually accentuates your player creativity rather than just trying to lock you into just constantly getting new updates all the time because all your gear has been completely undermined. So but I wish them success. This is more in the column of things that you definitely want to hear, but ultimately we'll see if it's just kind of some cacophonous noise or or if there's actually something behind it. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm going to say I support that he said that. I think it's good. The thing is, when it comes to Arrowhead Studios, and I don't think this is a unique situation for these smaller dev teams because they're not a big studio like Activision or whatever.
No.
But they are under the supervision or the ownership of Sony Entertainment. So what Sony does, I don't think you should put that on Arrowhead because that's like putting it on other, teams that are trying to do a good job and they're working under a company that you don't appreciate. So I'm going to try and take this as at its face value. So what he said is good. There are other things though. Remember, he's the creative officer. He's not he doesn't really have, let's say, probably not a lot of authority over the community managers that run the Discord servers that are, part of this gay race communist rainbow coalition. So there's not much he can do about that. But him saying that, which is essentially a call for meritocracy, I think is a very promising thing. What I mean is that it's a team, and there are some people that work there that we're gonna probably find abhorrent, and then there are people that work there that are probably really good at their job, but they have to keep their head down or they got to play it safe.
Right.
Like, for example, there's a guy I know named Luke, and he worked in animation, and he's a really, really good at his job, and he's very talented, and he has high standards that he holds himself to, but he works for gay race communists, or he did until they sort of like started, you know, engaging in the sort of what they're known for, which is nepotism, where they're like, oh, we're going to bring on our friends, even though they don't have any talent, but I like them. And then we're going to disguise that as a call for diversity or whatever. So I think that I want to be fair to Johan, and I want to encourage him to keep speaking that, because he is going to weed out the bad actors. If you just tell the truth, you know, they're gonna show their faces. As far as Helldivers, I have figured out, because I was having a lot of technical problems and I was kind of blaming them, but then I figured out my issue on my end and what it was, and ever since then I haven't had any issues, and it's really, really fun. And the truth is that, and I think this is one of the things he says, is that I guess some people were trying to make him make a statement. This is the thing that was going on. If someone was trying to get him to make a statement in favor of diversity, otherwise he's a bigot, right? And so he said, you know, like, I want to go back to the summary that I read, where he says, let's see. He said, yes, he expressed that while he supports diversity, the core mission of Arrowhead Studios is to foster a positive work environment and develop games that are true to their creative vision. So when he says, I support diversity, I don't have a problem with that. I know what he means.
Right.
Okay. A lot of people that are normies to this whole thing, they're like, you accuse them of sexism or racism or whatever. And their instinct is to say, I'm not those things. And I don't agree with any of that. The problem is that it's a trap, right? It's a trap because they're trying to, it's like a struggle session. They're trying to get you to either completely like disavow anyone else who disagrees with them,
or bend the knee.
Extension. Yeah, make you bend the knee, right? So when he says, I'm not against diversity, he's not necessarily caping for the woke gay race communist stuff. He's just defending himself. It's like, it's essentially the way that leftists get liberals to fall in line. Liberals are not leftists, okay? Leftists are the revolutionaries. They're like the ones that want to shame you. They want to control you. They want to, you know, control spaces. They believe in flattening and all that.
They're the ones who ran out into a field during GDC to scream at the sky.
Yeah. Liberals are the ones that are they just want to be seen as good people that are tolerant, so they're easy to manipulate by leftists.
Right.
So
that's who Ryan Rodrathay would say. Moderates, you know, people that are, you know, easily pliable. And
those are just liberals, right? Liberals are essentially people who are like, look, man, I don't hate anybody. And of course, like, they're easy to control, because if you say, well, these people hate these people, what do you have to say about that? What are you going to say to them? You know, and it's a demand. It's a demand to like tell, you know, to get in line with us. Otherwise you're our enemy. So he's got to walk a tightrope here. It's delicate. He probably doesn't really know the scope of what's happening. And so he's just trying to be like fair. And I guess I appreciate that he said anything at all. Now, I do have to wonder, this is going back to the whole, like, you know, words are one thing, actions are another. Right. I want to see where this goes. I'm not saying this is like fantastic, but I do think it's a step in the correct direction. And I think that should be encouraged. And I don't think we should shout him down, and we shouldn't accuse him of being a liar. Now, having said that, some people on the pro Gamergate side that are more conservative, and I even hesitate to use that word, but there are some people who basically say that if he's not like doing everything he can to like change the state of the gaming industry or his company, then he's lying. And this is, you know, all of that. We shouldn't be doing that, because that's going to push them away. It's like go ahead.
I was gonna say, I do think that things have gotten a little too polarized here in recent months, because so many people are, you know, caught up in this. We're right, the other side's wrong, and like you're starting to see it kind of crop a little bit, where it's like, you know, like that's kind of where I'm now, just like saying, you know, there are definitely elements that you know come to the forefront that are guided by ultimately, you know, your intentions. And there are people on, you know, all sides of this now that are kind of like, there are some clearly bad actors. But then even within our ranks, I've noticed that there's starting to be like a whole bunch of purification testing and things like that. And it's just like, you're just not good enough. And it's like, I think we need to, like maybe, take the time, as you're saying, like hold people to account for what they're actually accountable to. And that's why when I was talking about the stuff that I brought up, I didn't really mention the whole thing about, the thing about the PSN accounts and how how they've been locked out of a whole bunch of countries and things like that. Because that, as you were saying, that's a Sony thing. And there's nothing that the company can even do about that, because I'm sure they'd like to sell their games in those 177 countries.
Of course,
Yeah. So and that's the thing. So it's like it definitely is a time for people to use a little bit more nuance and sophistication on how they go at these things, and not just assume that like you're either all this or all that. Like there is, a broad range. People contain multitudes, and like you're saying, like especially in today's work climates, if you're, for lack of a better term, problematic white guy, you're the first point on the chopping block. So if you want to just get by, do your life, and like not have everything be completely undermined for silly ass reasons, then you kind of have to choose your battles, as the expression goes.
Yeah. Toby Alting says, was he known for DEI? No, I don't think he was. That's what I'm saying. Like, this stuff it's not like the creative director is the guy that's saying this is going to be diverse. Like, you will, by their fruits, you will know them. I think that he genuinely wanted Helldivers 2 to simply be a really great experience, in the same way that like Left 4 Dead was. Which is what these games are often compared to, even though it's not quite the same. And I will say, as somebody who has never really given up on Helldivers 2 because I love the first game so much, it has been delivering on that front. And there's another guy, friend of mine, I don't talk to him a lot that much, but I used to more, Carl Benjamin, or Sargon of Akkad, you guys might know him. Right. And he did a video about it, explaining that it's okay that a game has politics in its setting, and that everything makes sense for the setting. But if you bring in like contemporary ideas, which is what he was saying we shouldn't do, right? The creative director. The problem is that it does lower the quality of the product. It dates the product, and it makes it to where it won't be relevant in like a few years, because and that's the thing about these revolutionary gay race communists, is that there is no past, there is only now, and everything must be like relevant to the today, because
there's no appreciation for context. Like clearly Helldivers 2 takes place in a dystopic future hellscape that has been inundated with aspects of DEI, but that doesn't mean that you need to wear some trans flag as a cape.
No, of course not. And I think that's what, but I mean, like, I think that they're trying to preserve a vision. Right.
And that's what I'm saying, because they are the ones who said, no, we're not going to put a trans flag and there's a cape. Like, there's no rainbow, it's like the stuff that they do. And anytime that they have made capes in the game, they're relative to the lore, whether that be, the actual in-game stuff, or like the way that it's had like, some aspect of community involvement and stuff like that. I fully am in full support of, because again, that actually does build upon the focus of the game itself and like the actual escapism. And so but it's one of those things where, like I said, I think that there is a little bit of people at this point in time, they're like, oh well, you fooled me, like you did all this stuff. It's like, was it really that? So I mean, I can appreciate you actually still sticking with the game, because I know a lot of people who just like like they completely uninstalled it, and like you talk to them about it and they're just like completely just like, why would I play that? That's that. And it's like, I think you might be like, getting a little too jaded here. So
yeah.
Gal
Pal Val says, how can we be expected to believe a director is so culturally unaware of what's going on in the gaming community? It seems disingenuous to come in pretending they may not have heard of or be aware of. I guess, there's more to the message there. Well, this is the thing, like, he might not be, because, a lot of these people do live in a bubble, or they're kind of like, they have their head in their nose in their work. That's possible. What I think is that he is aware of what's going on, but it's really risky to like step up and say, like, I reject all of it. And he did kind of reject it. He said, this is not this game is not an appropriate platform for virtue signaling and activism, which is essentially what he's being told to do. Now, these community manager types, they're probably going to have their bias, of course, like a lot of people in the industry are. Again, like I said, the creative fields are overwhelmingly liberal in general. This is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just when the leftists get involved. And just to show the other side of this too, that I also think we should be cautious of. Remember, it was like a couple of weeks ago when we did the show, we talked a little bit about this Gooner Gate thing, okay? Yeah. Now, the Gooner Gate comes out of the sort of like hyper-conservative fundamentalist part of this resistance that we're a part of, that even though I'm Christian, I'm not one to tell people how they have to live their life, right? I think of it like the saying is, pick up your own cross. You're not supposed to look at other people's issues. You pick up your own cross and you deal with your own, your own shortcomings, your own sin, your own problems. But people and I like these guys. This is not me throwing shade. Jonathan Trent, John Delarose, the guys over at Fandom Pulse. I use them for, my sources a lot. But the thing is, they're like devout, hardcore Catholics, and they think that they want to do like a different kind of cleanse. And I don't agree with that. So I think that everything should be out in the open. Yes, some of the stuff is basically going to be fat material. Oh, well, the thing is that if, because, for example, Korean developers, the guys who made Stellar Blade, that game is a success, not because Eve is this extremely attractive, sexy character, although that helps. Yeah. But it's because the game is good, and also because they didn't listen to what the Western devs are doing, which is to masculinize, the women and feminize the men and basically make everything androgynous and ugly. And it's on purpose. As somebody said, Saltpeter Taffy said, the degradation of quality is a goal in itself for these cultural revolutionaries. Yes, they're iconoclasts, essentially. They don't care if the message even takes with anyone or not. So if you have... I think what the important message is that, and I made a video about this where I talked about Marvel Rivals, which is this hot new, hero shooter everybody's playing right now. And I was explaining how the reason why the game is successful has almost everything to do with the art direction. And I said, look, they made the women look like women. They made the men look like men. They tried to stay close to, within their own sort of design, let's say, preferences. But they try to keep it close and loyal to the source material. Meanwhile, we're getting Black Norman Osborn and we're all this other shit, right? We're getting Miles Morales. We're getting, a gay deaf girl that needs you to make graffiti. So it's the East is doing, maybe they have shady practices. And I agree, there's ethical problems with working with China or whatever, but they're also doing the stuff the West should be doing. Right. And so I should be pointing out whether you play it or not, Marvel Rivals is a massive success. 20 million people are playing that game. Right. 20 million. And a Western company could have that audience if they loved the source material that they were adapting enough to do it loyally and do it correctly and not shit on their fans. But they don't. So China gets the money.
And I think Marvel Rivals is actually a really good point to kind of show that deference that people have, because, I am firmly, against Disney. I have been for decades, to the extreme. I am very much one of these people where it's well, if you give them any money, if you give them any kind of, quarter, then they're never going to fully go away. And so I hear great things about Marvel Rivals all the time. And I can appreciate, the play mechanics and everything like that. But for myself, I don't really get into it because there is still the issues that you have with Marvel, which we'll get into that story later about the rampant race swaps and all this kind of stuff. And so, I'm hesitant to even get into a game like that, because while I can actually appreciate what the developer themselves has done, it's still one of those things where it gives that wiggle room to Disney to kind of go and say, oh, well, we do this over here. And so if we do this over here, then that kind of absolves us of all this other stuff that we do. And so, but no, there is, there's no situation that you're going to go into that is exactly perfect You know, so you have to, like, you know,
Well,
as an individual, choose your battles, choose your tastes, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't tell anybody to stop playing Marvel Rivals that's currently playing it, that's enjoying it, because of my own personal opinion and take on the matter. But you know, but it is definitely one of those things where you really have to kind of think, what are you getting out of this, you know, and what's it for? And if you're getting plenty of good escapism, and you're getting an appreciation for, you know, like this, I believe it's team-based combat, the way that it's set up, you know, I mean, it sounds like a decent enough game. Maybe if, like, you know, like it were something that you know, like, I don't know, like I have all my weird tech issues on my systems currently that might also be preventing me from really kind of even giving it a look see. But you know, if people are willing to kind of, you know, say as much as they do against Disney, Marvel, and then yet at the same time go and play a game like that, that in and of itself should show you that none of us can really, like, you know, look at these things and say, well, I'm so hard lined that these are my principles and values on this stuff. Because a lot of people, you know, I remember, you know, beginning of last year, the thing that was on the cusp of everybody's mind was the 2-year moratorium. You don't hear too much about that a year into the supposed moratorium on buying new games. You know, I've held true to the idea, like, you know, like I think the last new game I actually legitimately got was Helldivers 2. Before, like, everyone said, hey, we should do this thing and, like, really, you know, stick it to these large AAA developers. And, you know, I'm at the point where it's just like, I'm kind of, you know, like, I'm just supporting independent games going forward currently. And I'm doing a few things that I choose to do that some people might say, wow, that's a little bit extreme. And I think you're kind of getting lost in the situation and trying to do things. It's like, well, you know, I'm not sitting here trying to tell anybody else that they have to make the choices I'm making specifically, but to what we're doing right now, like, it is good to, you know, give the rewards and the merits where they are deserving, but also, you know, hold people to account accordingly. And so, like, you know, like, is Marvel Rivals a great game by all accounts? From what I understand, it certainly sounds that way. So, you know, like, the more that we're actually going to be able to get properties that are like that to a degree is through support, and supporting, like, you know, like, you know, the developers that are actually behind that, rather than the ones like, say, Ubisoft gets the exact same kind of, or EA, I suppose, gets the Marvel license, and just skin suits another thing that's just another also ran that could easily just be anything else, and it shows itself for what it is, and those titles generally fail. So, you know, if there's some aspect of this, and you're talking about titles that have so much brand familiarity that they're going to sell well, it's much better to, you know, support the ones that are actually focused on the gamers than the ones that are just focused on, you know, the licensing and having that familiar branding and things like that, so that they can use that as a vehicle for all this DEI insanity.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, see, Marvel Rivals is free to play, so that's one of the reasons why so many people are playing it. But
True
I'm not trying to sell people on the game. I'm basically, my video about it was to say, see, the only thing, it's a very simple thing, okay?
Yep.
When Concord failed in spectacular fashion,
Right.
10 days after its launch or something like that.
Yep.
People
didn't even make a full 2 weeks.
Yeah, people coping said, oh, well, hero shooters are dead. They're not popular anymore. Oh, hero shooters aren't good anyway. It was anything except the Concord art direction was trash. And the art direction is, in fact, most of that is the ideology of the people involved, right? They want to uglify things. They want to, you know, they put forward the idea of, like, these diverse characters was, like, front and center. They dared you to criticize them, you know, because they wanted to be able to call you a bigot. And they coped about this, and then Marvel Rivals comes out, and it doesn't do any of that, because, you know, like, they're like NetEase, the people who made it, they literally were like, we're not doing any of that. We're just gonna present it as it was, and it's exploded, and it's a hero shooter. So it's like they were lying about it, the Concord's failure being due to the fact that nobody plays hero shooters. It was just a lie. So so I made a video to point out, if you, and I'm talking to Western developers, because like Razor Fist made a video, and I talked about this when Black Myth Wukong was out. Actually, we talked about it on a show where I said, I think that Chinese, like Tencent and the Chinese government is actually one of the main people pushing for DEI in Western developers while not holding their own companies to the same standard. Right. I said that. And Razor Fist made a video where he said the same thing, or at least he ranted on Stuttering Craig thing. And I didn't even have to look into it. I just knew that was probably going on because I know that the Chinese market operates this way. Now, having said that, and I think this is very important, okay? Western developers had the choice not to do that, but they chose to do that. While China chose not to do that, they basically did not hold their own people to account. So who is the bigger fool, the fool or the fool who follows him? The Western developers deserve to lose all the money because they actually said, yes, we're going to do the DEI stuff. Yes, we're going to do the inclusion shit. Yes, we're going to get our ESG scores. Yes, we're going to take the BlackRock money. And China said no. So if Chinese games succeed, I haven't supported any Chinese games that I know of. I mean, you never know, if you buy, like if you played Fortnite, you basically supported China, right? But to my knowledge, I have not gone out of my way to give China any money, but I will spotlight stuff that China's doing, or Korea or Japan, that is essentially like is going to prove successful. And I'm going to say to the West, why aren't you doing this? Because you don't want to make money, right? That must be it. So my point is, Marvel Rivals succeeds because it did art direction better than Western developers did. And Western developers apparently are just fine with that. And I'm telling people this is like how deep the rot is in our Western developers. Now, I think that the best thing you can do is get behind the people who are saying the right things when they say the right things or do the right things, and then let them know when they're doing the wrong thing. It's kind of like the Sam Hyde, going to this thing we were talking about before the show. Sam Hyde made a video, I think it was directly to Elon Musk about this whole H-1B visa thing. And it was essentially, I think that Sam Hyde was very measured and fair, and he wasn't angry, he wasn't whatever. He was just very direct in what his intentions are. And I think this is the way it has to be. Because here's the thing, just going back to the election really quick. And I said this when the election happened. I said, now that Trump is in office, this is where the work really starts. So it's not like he gets in and we all like kick back and we're like, okay, everything's fine now. Now we all have to roll up our sleeves and get busy, like making the country better, because now we have someone in the White House that's not going to be an obstacle. Whereas before we did have someone that was going to be an obstacle. So that's kind of what I wanted to get to say about that. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm not telling you to buy anything. I'm saying when someone does it right, you say, these people are doing it right. Why aren't you? And you tell them, you tell Westerners, why aren't you guys, like Ubisoft, as far as the embargo goes, the Ubisoft's gonna crash. Like they're already, their stock is plummeting. Ubisoft, EA, Activision, Bethesda, BioWare, like I think it's working. People are not buying their shit.
Oh yeah.
So there is that.
I believe I saw somewhere on the past couple days, I believe it's $10 billion in 4 years that was lost by Ubisoft. So yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the fact that there's lag, right? So like they start a project 5 years. There are projects coming out that were started years back before we even said we're not going to support them, but now they're committed to the bit, so they have to finish it. Like Assassin's Creed Shadows has to come out, because they've already invested so much money in it, and it's going to be a failure, I think. I mean, yeah, some people are going to buy it because there's a lot of normies, they don't know, but it's okay. It's going to be very underwhelming.
And it's not just Assassin's Creed Shadows; it's the next two Assassin's Creed's game, because we also covered that one, the Hex. That's going to be like about the Salem witch trials or whatever. And it's just going to be more like, lesbian forest witches. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh,
okay. So anyways. I got a question from someone in the chat. Gal Pal Val, thank you for the comment. Says, question about the issue of Christians pushing their viewpoint. What's the difference on devout religious expressing their opinion on what they want to see in games and what secular gamers want to see? Neither group are the developers. What's the difference? It comes down to who's actually like paying for shit. So I think that the gamers, because okay, you said as an example, you're talking about Christians, but let's just say that wokies are also religious because they are. It's basically a cult. Right. Anyone who is not going to support the product, that's basically insisting on like what the product should look like, should not have a voice. Full stop. You know, like I want.
Which is basically what we said about Goonergate, as I recall.
Yeah,
because it's like, especially when, as it applied to the game, the First Descendant or Last Descendant. I can't remember exactly what the title of
First
the
Descendant.
It is First Descendant. Yeah, whereupon like you have to, number one, buy the game or install the game, and then like like go through a successive amount of steps to get to the thing that was so infuriating to so many people. And it's like, well, that's something you could have easily avoided just by not
doing that. Yeah,
not doing that.
The thing with the Goonergate thing is, I'm like, well, what? Okay, so where's the line? That's the thing I said. Like, I don't know. Like, do we want women that look like women and men that look like men? And if so, then like, where does it cross the line from attractive and idealized to
profane and
like softcore porn? Like, where's the line? Right. And I mean, I think that there are some things that are like obviously like trying to like walk that line. I mean, like what is it? Goddess Nike is like some like gacha game with girls with guns, and or Genshin Impact or Zenless Zone Zero.
There's this expression that says pornography is hard to define, but you'll know it when you see it. And that's kind of one of those things. As an individual, you will know when you see it. And because like when I went to art school, one of my favorite art pieces is At the Window by Henri Gervais. And it's a picture of this lady who's laying in a bed, and she's got an outward, glance to the viewer. And there's a dude at the window, and he's heading out because they've evidently had like a late night tryst, right? And to that, up till that point, there's been, plenty of sculptures and things like that of naked I guess they call it nude in art, and nude's okay, but like in this instance they said this chick was naked because she was sharing a glance with the viewer, and it was actually the first piece of art that was considered pornography, I believe. In Paris. And so like the only way that it could be shown was in underground art houses and things like that, so and when you look at it nowadays, in the expanse of time, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, like you can see her nipples and whatnot. I mean, this chick laying in bed naked, but it's still a beautiful work of art when you're actually looking at it from like, the standpoint of, the process and like what even the message is. So it's one of those things where it's like, I have my tastes. I have the things that govern me, rightly or wrongly. Like the whole thing, like, especially if you are governed by principles of faith, there's this gift that we have from God called free agency. And it's not our place to sit here and act as though we're the judger of others, lest we be judged harshly. And so like, that's kind of thing. You may have a problem with some of this stuff, but you can have your problem with it, to an extent. But that just means in your own capacity to actually allow for it to be a thing that you endorse in your own life. But if it happens outside of you, like, can it be annoying living in the land of the lost? Sure. But that's kind of like the whole challenge has been laid before you. And like, you have to be able to like, deal with it to some, degree of deference and forgiveness. And I think that gets lost in these modern times. And it's just like, if you don't like it, you don't have to like it. Nobody's trying to force you to like it. But there's also a thing too, where it's like, I saw like an image the other day, like a great meme of like, a gal in a swimsuit, and she's just like, out on the beach. And then like another one of like, a woman like, in her bra and underwear that's like covered herself, that's actually got more material on. It's like, all right, so like, what's really the difference in these things? And someone said consent, obviously. And I suppose that has some measure of bearing on that sort of thing. Like if you're going out into a beach and you're showing yourself and you're comfortable with it, sure. But if somebody walks into your room and like catches you in various states of undress, and that makes you feel as though you're kind of being violated, like that's also totally understandable. So I mean, like, none of these things are ever too clear cut, because you can have, the exact same situation, but based on the context, the way that it actually gets framed, and kind of like, whether or not the person is at ease with it or completely, feeling assaulted. So I think we all have to use a little bit more discernment and be more considerate to the wider views of things, as well as just understanding that our personal preferences are just that. They're our personal preferences. And
I mean, like normies will get blindsided by that kind of stuff. But
right.
Let me just read this other comment from Gal Pal Val, who said, all I saw was Christians expressing their opinion and people freaking out about it, but it's not like anyone who was talking had any power. Right. I agree, but I think people are a little bit sensitive at this point with anybody saying, like, this is unacceptable or you're a disgusting person for this, especially when it comes to the things that men tend to enjoy, because like men's hobbies or interests have been shamed and disregarded by people on the, and I'm just going to say this because I think it makes sense, on the left and the right. Okay. I don't like saying that because I don't think that dichotomy makes sense, but for those of you who understand what I mean, that's what it is. So like on one hand, you got like feminists saying you're objectifying women and, you're promoting white supremacy and patriarchy and yada, yada on the left. And then you have people on the right saying, oh, you're gooning, you're a pervert, this is degenerate. Yeah. So like and it's always on men. It is always on men. So like, it's going to get to a point where these guys are going to be really sensitive to this stuff and they're going to respond accordingly. And I think that it makes sense. So yes, they don't really have any power. At the end of the day, the power is in the consumer and they get to decide. And this is what I've been saying from the very beginning. But I can forgive a guy for not responding well when people tell him that whatever he likes is bad for one reason or another. Right. So,
and as it applies, I know you got the super chat, but I just want to say, and as it applies to the Goonergate specifically, like, Dread Roberts, who's one of the biggest, people in that topic of the day that emerged, he's on my FFS Discord. I've sensed that whole situation has happened. I've talked to him, through Twitter here and there. Like, he used to follow me, and then when he did his mass unfollowing of people, I was one of the people that ended up getting cut from his following list. But even in that, like, I reached out to him, and I've been trying to be considerate, compassionate, understanding. I understand he's got some personal stuff that has happened, directly bearing on his family, which I'm sure is completely, skewed his views on all sorts of things. And so I'm just trying to, do that thing where I was just talking about, and show a little bit of forgiveness and compassion and consideration for somebody whose viewpoints and perspectives don't necessarily, align with my own personal, outlooks 100%, but they don't have to, because ultimately at the end of the day, like, I don't think that he's a bad person or he's like ultra militant or anything like that, and so we don't, I can take the wider view on it and say, all right, well, this doesn't work for him, and I'm not going to force it on him. But also at the same time, for the people that, do find it to be something that's not as much of an issue, I'm not going to hold it against them either. And so, like, and that's what I mean, like my FFS Discord setup, because I have such a wide net of people there. Like, we've got online ministries, we've got, creators such as Dread Roberts. I've got people on there that, work, in nightclubs and strip clubs and things like that talk about, like, like doing, sure. And so, like, and so what I have at the Discord there is, it's a good sampling of actual American culture. And so I try to balance it enough that it's like, like, you can't get rid of titillation entirely in certain instances, but I also, I had somebody who wanted to put some AI art on there, and they kind of like kept pushing it to the line of, was like, well, is this too much? And it's like, given that this is, a Discord that's meant for, creator development and involvement and kind of like collaboration and things like that, it's like, much as I, may not even have an issue with the art that you have here, I don't know if this is the appropriate forum for it. So if you want my help to like set up your own personal Discord and like, you know, like, and actually have it be like this more adult oriented kind of fare, have at it, Haas, and I'll do everything I can to help you in that regard. But I don't know that this is the right venue necessarily for that. And so, you know, you just have to kind of pick your battles on certain things, you know?
Yeah, I lost a couple people on my server because some people were posting things that he found inappropriate, even though there's no porn on my Discord server at all. So like, yeah, people's sensitivities are different. Like, but the thing is, I feel like all of that is just a distraction from the goal. Like, you know, it's sort of like when there's infighting on the so-called right. I don't think this is the thing. Okay, I'll just put it out there. There's no right. There's just the non-left. And the thing is, because there's just the non-left, they always have different ideas of what their side is supposed to look like, but it's too ambiguous. So you're going to end up with libertarians arguing with Christian conservatives, arguing with, you know, moderates, arguing with whatever, because they're not on the same side. They're just like a bunch of people that are not communists. So like that, they have to understand that we're not the same, but maybe we can all just like point at, you know, like direct our weapons at the enemy and we'll worry about like each other's sort of disagreements, which are small in comparison.
And I can't, I don't know if I've said it here, but I know I've definitely said it elsewhere in recent weeks that, you know, like, it seems like we've got to the point to where we, you know, we found a whole bunch of witches. We kind of burned through a coven. And then, like, you know, we all started like looking amongst us saying, who amongst us is a witch? Rather than actually saying, all right, so now that we've done this, let's figure out how these witches like came into being and like, let's go after the witchcraft, you know, and that's like, definitely the more important
when you play
aspect.
Gauntlet, you got to destroy the monster generator. Otherwise the monsters are just going to keep coming out. Right.
And it becomes a carousel of insanity. So
yeah, but no, I agree. So like just to like end on that, the CCO from Arrowhead, I support him saying that. I think he's right in saying that. He might be responding to like what I noticed. There's a vibe shift, and everybody's like, "Oh, I guess this woke stuff's not popular." And some people are jumping on the bandwagon. And yes, they should be viewed with discretion. We should be watching them to make sure, you know, they don't jump ship to our side and then like start doing the same crap. It's kind of like when people fled California and moved to Texas. Okay, that's fine. You left California, but are you going to bring your bad voting habits with you to Texas? Because you're just going to like destroy this state too. So we should encourage people to be brave and speak out, but we don't make them into, you know, like speakers. You know, it's kind of like, you know, we just tell them, okay, now you sit in the back and you study and you figure out what it is we believe in. As far as like the Goonergate thing goes, we don't live in a heavenly time. We live in a fallen time, and and we just have to like be understanding and sympathetic to people, and maybe just like live in the way that makes people inspired to live more like you. Don't go wagging your finger, because that doesn't work. And plus, again, you know, it's another problem I see on everybody's perspectives. They think that they can, if only we can get everybody to agree with me, then we will have heaven on earth. And the fact is, we can't have heaven on earth. That's the reason for all of the suffering, because somebody's trying to make things perfect. You know, like
that's the devil's plan. You know, like I'll make them all be good.
And it's like Thanos was like, I'm going to end hunger by killing half the universe.
Right.
Yeah, that's your mistake right there. Right.
Like, so, yeah. If I could just add like my last little bit to it is like, you know, the whole thing about freedom of speech, which is supposed to be like this very important thing to all of us, right? Well, the freedom of speech that matters is not the freedom of speech that you support. It's the freedom of speech that challenges you and makes things a little bit more difficult and like helps kind of shape you in the way that you actually respond to it. Not react, but respond. You know, because if we all become a whole bunch of reactionary little bitches, you know, this whole place is going to go nuclear. And that's the thing, is like, we don't want to have meltdowns all the time. We want to actually be able to actually, you know, use a little bit of, you know, clarity in our judgment for ourselves, and understand that there are going to be things out there, like, you know, that you just really can't, you know, deal with. Like, you know, like some, like in every city, there's a seedy part of the town, you know, and a place that you're kind of like a little bit, I don't necessarily want to go there, but sometimes you have to travel through it, you know, and so You may lock your doors. You may kind of like, like be a little bit more cautious about like how you're moving through the space, but you still have to do it. And like, does that make it, something that you necessarily enjoy? No, but it is a necessary evil to a degree because, as the sage like wisdom of Beavis and Butthead once said, you have to have things that suck to have things that are cool, And so, like if you want to be able to appreciate what you can actually appreciate, then you also have to appreciate the things to a degree that you don't, so that you can actually have that balance. Because otherwise, it's all just a whole bunch of posturing.
Mm-hmm. All right, now I'm going to read the super chat and we're going to move on. So Master Goa, thank you, sir, gives us $5 and says, the problem is bigger than China. If China got erased by aliens, the agenda continues because it's World Economic Forum, United Nations, the World Bank. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, like, China is going to exist and it's going to have the government that it has. Might that change sometime down the line? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, like, but for now, they do exist. They do engage in the economy globally. They do have their tactics. And at the end of the day, we have a choice. Like, if you said, oh, I hate that, like, this is something that maybe somebody like, like these like Catholic guys would say. They might say, oh, we should ban porn. I saw people saying we should ban porn. Okay. People are still going to find ways to watch it. So like the thing is, it's not just the banning of something that's going to do anything. Even if you can prove without a shadow of a doubt that there's some, and I think that there's probably a lot of studies that do, talk about this, that there are harms in the excesses of things like porn or smoking or drinking or whatever it is. You will never eliminate these things completely. So the only thing you can do is essentially be, just like be the change you want to see. I don't know how else to put it. Right. So that's and yeah,
led by your intentions.
And as long as they do, if they do something right in terms of like, how to design a game, for example, I'm going to point to that. I'm going to say they're doing that right. Why aren't you? Because at the end of the day, you choose, to make a game or a show or a movie or a piece of music or whatever it is, piece of art. And, whether or not you want to do it to the appeal of people to like, achieve something transcendent, or if you just want to do like something about yourself, which is essentially engaging in insecure narcissism, that is ultimately your choice. And it is also my choice whether or not I want to support it. So anyway, thank you for the $5, Master Go. I really appreciate the super chat. If you guys have any other comments, just, I'll be looking at your chat, but we got to move on because this is,
you can tell it's been a minute since we've been here. We did an hour on like the first thing, which that's
but it's okay because that was
no. It's anyway. Yeah, well, we also don't have too many topics today. But it's just kind of like when I'm on Will of the Fans, we do a segment called Rush News, and it always takes us at least an hour to get through it.
Sure. No, I know. All right, so next up we got Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. I still haven't seen it, have no interest. It was a gigantic failure, though. I think it made like $4 million.
I think the current total that I've seen is somewhere around 18 million. They think that it will come out possibly worldwide at like 30, but the movie itself costs like $31 million just to make, let alone do all the marketing and everything. So this is
they didn't even split even. Yeah.
No. And it's already available for digital.
Oh no, wait. The numbers reports says the global total is 18.2 million, with just 8.7 million from the domestic box office and 9.5 million internationally.
Yeah. And it's projected to hit 30 possibly.
In its third weekend, it made under $500,000, $455,000.
Yep.
So now, of course, probably nobody expected an anime movie release in theaters to make a ton of money. But it's probably got more to do with the fact that they took a giant dump on Tolkien and his lore. And this is what I really want to talk about. It's not really about the fail of the Horror of the Rohirrim or whatever.
Right.
But the animated film, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, has faced significant backlash for deviating from J.R.R. Tolkien's lore. Critics argued that the film introduces a feminist narrative, because it does, which focuses on a character, Hera Hammerhand, that like didn't even have a name in the original
Never even
text.
existed. Yeah.
No, she did. She did. They said
She
he
did
had a
exist
daughter.
as a daughter, but this
Yeah,
Hera,
she was
like,
she didn't have a name.
Yeah, she didn't have
Not
a name.
central to the original text, which has led to accusations of disrespecting Tolkien's work by pushing contemporary social agendas like promoting LGBTQ lifestyles and undermining traditional marriage. The film has been described as a subversive mess by many fans, particularly for altering the narrative to make Hera the protagonist and implying a lesbian relationship through character actions. I don't know if you guys knew that, but yes, she's a lesbo apparently.
Right. You
So
know what I
the other
find
thing
interesting
is
about
that,
it,
and I
though?
thought this was the bit I wanted to talk about. The actress who did the voice acting for this had some opinions, and she felt the need to share them. And specifically, she talks about how the reason why this film, let me see, I just want to read this bit. In an interview with Total Film ahead of the film's theatrical release, Total Film's interviewer commented, obviously, in the original Lord of the Rings films, there is only one scene where two female characters interact. Wise interrupted. Does not pass the Bechdel test. You guys know what the Bechdel test is? I've talked about it on my other show a lot. You guys know what it's? First of all, it's a bullshit test. It's not.
Yeah.
It sounds like a piece of academic, like something you use to measure things academically. It's not.
Yeah, no,
it's
it was a comic strip.
comic. But do you know what it is, John?
Yeah. It was just a comic strip that the woman herself has even said years later, like now, which is commented to in this article. She's like, that wasn't my intention. I mean, it's kind of interesting and cool that it's kind of like developed this life, but seriously, like, that's not even my concern. I was kind of trying to just say something that was funny in the moment, and everybody is now taking it way too serious. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think, like, as it applies to this, this issue that we're talking about with the roar of the the War of the Rohirrim. I have to actually say it right, otherwise I'm going to sing Roar of Rohirrim, which I do all the time. But like, my main issue with it is, that they did completely invent these characters, specifically that kind of do things that, like, so here's the thing about, like, virtue signaling is, it's a convenient crutch, and you do, and it leads you to whatever makes sense in the moment. So, like, the word Latinx that we all find to be completely laughable and stupid. I know it's supposed to be Latinx, but I prefer to say Latinx because, well, it's stupid and laughable.
It's stupid either way.
Right. But when you actually think about the way that the Latin culture and the language is built around, is there are feminine words, there are masculine words, and so this character that they invented, her name is Hera with an E, with an A, right? A feminine, kind of nomenclature to set her up as a feminine version of a hero, which is a masculine word, and so, but it's not Herex, or Herx or whatever. It's just like, that's the thing that just astounds me, is like, even in their own line of bullshit, they can't even be consistent, So, that's. And I could be wrong on that, but that's just one of those things that I notice is just on the periphery of it. I see it's like, oh, you named her Hera. What's that all about? And
I know. Do they know? Like,
right.
I mean, I think they know, obviously. Mm-hmm. These people are really big on these kind of pagan symbols that they put in everything. I understand why it upsets Christians, but like, it's really just lazy. They just like to be contrarian in that way.
Right.
But the Bechdel test,
they have no actual principles of values, they just have their virtue signaling.
Yeah, no, the Bechdel test is it's also known as the Bechdel-Wallace test, is a measure of the representation of women in film and other fiction. The test asks whether a work features at least two female characters who have a conversation about something other than a man. And oftentimes they'll put like a time limit, like for at least, 2 minutes or 5 minutes.
Right.
And that means if it doesn't pass the Bechdel test, it's not feminist, which means it's misogynist. That's what it means to not be feminist.
Right. And which is why so many works of fiction now have just women sitting around table eating pie, talking about.
Because they're trying to pass the Bechdel test, which is made up. It's garbage. It doesn't really add anything to a story. And Essentially, if you think about it, the woman who actually made the test did go back and say, look, it was a joke. But that these people, like you said that, you planted that seed, and now it's basically just become like a way of measuring the quality of art.
Right.
And you did that. You didn't step out. You didn't you're not fighting against it. They're still doing it. They're still like movie stars are talking about the Bechdel test. That's how dumb it is.
Right.
And essentially it means that if you actually try to follow that rule, you can't make a good piece of fiction. You just can't.
Right.
Unless you make it about women and only women, which nobody wants to watch.
Not even women.
Not even women. No, not even women. Like I've been with my wife. We've been watching movies, and we watched all the Death Wish movies.
Right.
Like the Death Wish movies are not about women.
No, no.
But they're fun movies. We watched. There's this one. I don't know if you guys know this. Patrick Swayze. It's called Red Dawn. You ever?
Yep. Oh yeah,
Red Dawn?
I know of Red Dawn.
Wolverines.
Yeah,
Wolverines.
yeah.
So not really about women. Like there are women in it, and maybe they even have a conversation. I don't know, but it's really dumb. So like this actress tried to virtue signal and said that the reason for this movie is because there should be that it needed the Bechdel test to be passed, and that was her way of solving the problems that Tolkien created. Of course, now you know these people really hate Tolkien and his work, and that's kind of what I wanted to highlight with that.
Right.
If
if I could just bring another kind of movie thing into
go ahead.
view on this too, is like the Hallmark Channel exists, right? And I do a lot of streaming on Sundays late at night with Stupenzo, and he actually watches Hallmark movies, and he was jokingly saying one day, he's like, at a certain point in time I kind of had to ask myself, it's like, if I find myself watching this many Hallmark movies, and am I watching it just to make fun of it, or am I watching because I actually kind of on some level actually appreciate it? And they did this whole multiverse of like women who work in like this gift shop this last year.
Multiverse.
Well, not I guess multiverse, but
multiverse of Hallmark movies.
Well, not so much multiverse, but
crossovers. I haven't.
They're connected. Yes, connected narratives. So they all centralized around these four women that work in in a wrapping shop or something like that. Some kind of gift shop, and and all four of them, one in their own movie, they're the main character, but then they're like supporting characters in the other stories. But they all find love, and they all this and that, right? And so, even within like these movies that is on a channel that's predominantly based around the interests of women, there are still men involved in those stories and things like that. And so, and to the point of what we were just saying is that nothing really passes the mustard for what they're suggesting unless you're just trying to completely erase storytelling. And things that actually have like an impact on people's interests in their lives, and just undermine the aspects of culture and actual why are you watching a thing if it's completely homogenized, made completely as I like to say ethically beige, and just completely just tone like it becomes just like a test pattern, just this one monotonous kind of don't step out of line, don't do the thing, don't and so it's just it's highly sus to get caught up in this bullshit that is ultimately there to eliminate everyone's choices, everyone's preferences, whatever they may be on either end of a spectrum as it kind of gets more polarized in one direction or another. They just want everything to be completely devoid of any taste, any, value, not actually adhering to anything of like the principles of humanity, only adhering to the things that's going to, as you said, make it more androgynous, more just kind of just debased from either the masculine or the feminine. This is all transhumanist bullshit that they want us to buy into.
Yeah, and it looks like it's a failure. So people are not resonating with this, and I think that that's good because at the very least, the normies have some kind of even if they don't understand it, but they have some kind of natural intuition to say this doesn't look like something I want to watch, and they're just not watching it. Right. So that congratulations. But let's move on to the next thing that probably will be a giant flop. The new Spider-Man. So let's see. Like this looks awful.
Oh god!
I did not watch the trailer.
If we're gonna watch the trailer, just mute it. I will tell you right now because the music is horrendous.
No, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it.
Okay,
I've seen some clips.
Yeah, it's
bad. I don't want to watch it. But it's not doing well. It's another one that's not doing well. And so we got this new Spider-Man show, and there are claims that it's supposed to be like taking place like it's in line with the MCU, but they've already changed a bunch of things, like, you know, making Mary Jane into an Asian woman with, of course, like a streak of color in her hair, because that's what all Asian women are right now. You know, it's funny, these people are always talking about how important it is to see diversity, and yet they take every like little group and put them in a box. Like the black guys always have that haircut, you know, the one. And the Asian women always have like some color in their hair, and you know, who knows what they're gonna do with us Latinos. And the gingers, they just get erased. So so we have here this meme that somebody made of Harry Osborn and how he has changed. So I don't think these are meant to be compared one to one.
No.
But frankly, I've always liked the original Harry Osborn, top left corner. This was exactly as, just like his father, exactly as Steve Ditko intended. And no, those are not S waves. He just had short curly hair, is what I think it is. A little bit kinky, you know. I mean, his name is Osborn, so maybe he's got a little bit of like the Middle East in him. A little, you know, he's a little Jewy. I don't know. But what?
Oh, I just said he's got a little bit of a tiny hat. So
yeah, like a little bit of a. Well, I mean, Osborn sounds like it could be Jewish. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, high IQ. You know, his father's a scientist. I get it. The Green Goblin. I don't know, but anyway, so they changed him. They made him into a kind of like milk toast, likely homosexual, if not trans, brown person. And the same thing with his father, Norman. Norman Osborn is like nothing like Willem Dafoe, who basically made that character, by the way. But I always loved that character. I remember the 90s Spider-Man show. I think this is Harry Osborn here. There was at least an attempt to be faithful. And if you look at this in terms of like looking at like a timeline, you can see that over time they did change the character. I mean, I don't even recognize who that is. That doesn't look like him. They changed Flash Thompson. They made him black. I think that like in the movies, he was like some Indian guy, which was super weird. Like I didn't know that they were known for athleticism, but whatever. So it doesn't matter. People are not responding well to this at all. And I mean, all kinds of people. The normies are mad too. They're so sick of this stuff where they recast things and change things. But what I thought was really interesting about this was the person responsible, or no, not responsible, the journalist that is caping for this. Obviously, the people responsible are Disney. So let's take a look at the autistic woman that writes for the Mary Sue that had some comments about this.
Yeah.
So this a journalist, Sarah Barnett, who advocates for normalizing race swapping in media, particularly focused on the upcoming animated series Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where characters like Norman and Harry Osborn are race swapped. Her piece criticizes this approach as a form of lazy representation. Oh, I'm sorry, not her piece, but the piece that I'm talking about.
Right.
Which was written by this is Smash JT.
Yep.
Who wrote this article that I'm talking about? Basically calling it a lazy representation of virtue signaling, arguing that it alienates fans and diminishes genuine diversity efforts by not creating new diverse characters with rich backstories. The author frames Barrett's advocacy as attention-seeking behavior, questioning the merit and motives behind such journalism. So, okay, so this is Smash JT's take. I'm gonna take it farther. I don't think that anybody should be making up new characters in already established lore that exists. That already, like, again, I'm not gonna watch the show anyway. I would not have watched it because Disney owns the property. But if a day ever came where Marvel took its shit back and tried to make good on like everybody that it's burned along the way, along with Warner Brothers or whoever else, then they're going to have to just throw out all of it. Just throw out all of their shit and just go back to basics because that's all the fans want. Like they literally, when the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies were like the only thing making any money, and the only reason was because people were hoping to see something like the old Tobey Maguire ones. And when they made that movie that had Tobey Maguire in it, that made $1 billion because it was giving the audience what they wanted. And this woman who writes for the Mary Sue, and I'm going to talk a little about the Mary Sue in a second here because I think it's relevant. She says, let me see, she's neuroatypical, which means she's on meds, I guess.
Right. And that's something I'd like to speak to really quickly because, like, you know, I have a nephew who is, you know, slightly autistic, but just enough to be an asshole, basically. Not like he has a job and everything like that, but he also has like way too many cats to the point to where it's like the cats are suffering, but you can't even say to him, "Hey man, maybe this but less." You know, like cats, yes, sure, but maybe we top it off at like, you know, like 5, not 15, which, and because it like, you know, like they start to become feral and this and that, but you can't even have a conversation with him because he's too, you know, into the thing. And so when I see the image of the writer while she's on the screen, you know, I you can clearly see that she's got like, you know, she's got some degree of, you know, difficulty. There's I can see the birth defect basically in her eyes and her face, you know, like I see that, you know, so I'm not going to sit here and say that she doesn't have yeah, I'm not going to say that. But that therein lies like the whole thing is like, if you're going to allow people with mental disorders to set up the world that you live in, the whole world's going to be fucking crazy. So, you know, like it's like, have your opinions, live your life, do whatever it is that you want for yourself, as I was saying, but maybe we're not just, you know, going to go along with every idea that you have, because you will end up with like 187 cats in every fucking house, and everything's going to smell like piss, and it's going to like, you know, lead to like all these feral cats that are just trying to kill each other, and you can't get rid of them, you know? So, and I know that sounds like a really extreme kind of like, you know, what does this have to do with this thing? But that's what I'm saying is like, this is why you don't let people who are quote unquote neurodivergent lead you around the town, because they're going to take you through all of their weird like divergent kind of like, you know, like all their weird, just it's caught up in like their own like way of you know, seeing the world, and like that's interesting for art maybe, but that's not how you actually like navigate your life. And so like, you know, this gal can be a writer, she can do whatever, but the idea that like anybody should be listening to her as though she's some kind of paragon of like, you know, like clear thought or discernment, not so much. That's all. No. And maybe I'm a mean man for saying that, but you know, I'm a problematic.
No, I think you're actually being really too nice. Like
true.
You know, I get it. Like women, 60% of women are on some kind of medication for mental health right now. It's sad, but I mean, feminism poisons the mind and destroys the body. So I feel bad for her, but not that much, not enough not to criticize what she's claiming. So let's look at this about the author thing before I get into her article, because I think it's really telling. So I'm going to put this back on the screen. Sarah Barnett, about the author. Sarah Barnett, she, her, is a freelance writer with the Mary Sue who has been working in journalism since 2014. Freelance writer means she doesn't get paid for her work very much, and she doesn't write often because the Mary Sue is a garbage rag. She loves to write about movies, even the bad ones, especially the bad ones. Ha ha ha. The Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and the Star Wars prequels changed her life in many interesting ways. So you support them altering something that supposedly changed your life in many interesting ways. The Raimi Spider-Man films, which are probably like about as loyal to comic book movies as they could get for the time. I mean, like, you know, some like I love those movies. I think they're great, and I think they've aged very well. I even the third one is not as bad as, you know, I mean, it's not great.
Yeah, I had made fun of it actively watching it in the theater, but at this point in time, it's like, man, if I would would watch it gladly without a complaint. Given the
Spider-Man
climate.
3 aged pretty well. It definitely you could see what it could have been if the studios weren't like
so
involved,
up its ass.
because that was the problem with Spider-Man 3 is that the studios were pushing Raimi to put Venom in the movie, and he didn't want to put Venom in the movie because he didn't think Venom was a classic Spider-Man villain, and he's not. He's like Venom came out in the 90s, and all the other guys are from the 60s.
Yeah,
so
Venom's an edgelord.
With the Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus and the Sandman. I think he wanted to do Mysterio, and he wanted to do other things. There was talks that, like the Bruce Campbell cameos are Mysterio cameos, but that never. That would have been fucking awesome.
Fruition. Yeah. Like what might have been is almost like a better. Well, it certainly is. I like just the idea that we can have of like what could have been had Sony not stepped in and said, "Oh, you got to do this."
It was the studio was like, "You got to do this." The kids want Venom, and I think that was a mistake. I think that it would have been better to leave that alone. But anyway, that being said, she supports. The first thing I want to point out is that she supports the films that she's advocating they change the lore for, and then the last sentence, the best. Okay, she says. She lives in one of the very, very few good parts of England. Why is England in such a shit shape right now, Sarah Barnett? Could it have anything to do with your voting patterns? Could it have anything to do with the shit that you advocate for?
The mass immigration that's undermining, it's such a NIMBY attitude. Not in my backyard, but destroy everything. As long as I get to live away from all that bad stuff, I'm going to continue to advocate for it existing. Right.
What are you, racist? This is these people should not be listened to.
This is basically what I was just saying. People with mental disorders should not be shaping, the system of rule, because they're entirely too narcissistic, because they have a myopic way of thinking. They can't get out of their own patterns.
They're solipsistic. They only think their perspective is all that exists. They're like children. Toddlers are solipsistic, right? A 2-year-old throwing a tantrum in the toy section of Target because you're not buying them the toy they want. That is what these women are, these feminist women. They are that. They are toddlers throwing tantrums. And her article about the Mary Sue, I know this is like a tired old chestnut we've covered before, but I just want to say something about the Mary Sue, a little bit of a story that I have. In, holy shit, what year was it? 2015? 2014, Gamergate was going on. The original Gamergate. And it was my first opportunity working over at Honey Badger Radio to meet the people that I work with. Karen Strawn, Allison Tiemann, Rachel, why am I forgetting her name? Hannah Wallen, Anna Cherry, and her husband, and many others. And the Jonathan was Allison's husband. And we basically bought a booth at the Calgary Expo, which is in Calgary, Alberta, which is in Canada. And we were going to meet there for the first time. And we were going to advocate for free speech, which is basically the only thing. Gamergate for us was about free speech, right? The ability to talk about shit. And Allison had a booth because she had written and illustrated her own comic book. So she was doing Comicsgate before Comicsgate. Okay. And she had her own book. She was trying to sell it. And we did this convention, and our first day was great. And there happened to be a panel, because there were these panel discussions, and one of the panel discussions was about women in the comic book industry, and it was hosted by the Mary Sue. And Allison said, I think I'm going to go to this talk. I want to see what they're going to talk about. And she went there, and it was a preach session. Essentially, there were women up there complaining about men, just complaining about men. Okay. And Allison, who doesn't appreciate that, she asked to speak on that, challenged their position, said that, she doesn't agree with that. She doesn't think that men are the devil. She advocates for men. She explains why. And according to her, because I wasn't there, it turned into a conversation. The Mary Sue was there. While that was going on, people at the Mary Sue started tweeting about these hateful gamer gators. That's what they called us back then. Gamergators that were disrupting and threatening and scaring the women that worked there, and that they needed to be kicked out. And we got kicked out of the expo. We lost our money. Right. Well, I didn't spend my money, but we got kicked out of the expo, and Allison was banned for life from going to any of the expos in Canada.
Tolerant. So tolerant. Huh? So tolerant.
Yes, tolerance.
Yes.
So we have a history with the Mary Sue, and it wasn't just the Mary Sue. Like, a lot of people that worked in the industry were also delighting in us being thrown out. They got rid of the bigots. Allison, to be fair, never recovered from that. Like, she still, it still bothers her that happened. And it was bad. It hurt her business. So that's why we do this. Like, why we do streams. One of the reasons, because she can't actually go to comic book conventions, at least not under the name, Honey Badger Radio, or in advocacy in favor of Gamergate, or any of the images associated with it, with Gamergate, like Vivian James. And so this is our history with the Mary Sue. So when they come up in the news, like, I think I saw Smash JT's video, and he said that the Mary Sue was like a step below like Kotaku in terms of their cringe. No, these people are way worse. They're a step below Jezebel. Basically,
right.
Feminism is cancer, full stop, and it infects everything. But feminist websites are the worst of that. They're like the genus of the cancer that goes into things like games journalism or regular mainstream journalism, geopolitics, the United Nations, fucking like whatever it is.
It's like the Women in Games Special Interest Group.
We have history with them, so.
Yeah, the Women in Games Special Interest Group in gaming does not even represent women at this point in time. It is a trans, and no, it never did. But it was a leverage point for all this transhumanism, and that's all it ever was intended to be. Since the woman that was the head of my game design department when I was in art school, she was the first president of the Women in Games Special Interest Group, Brenda Brathwaite. She worked on the Wizardry series. She also did consulting work and everything like that for the Playboy Mansion game that was absolutely terrible, but ultimately, like, that was just a wedge work to undermine, actual male and female sensibilities under the guise that it was going to promote women. And they don't even do that now, because ultimately that was never their intention. It was completely to undermine the culture of gaming and everything else that we see. And, which is why you and I do this work together, basically, in a roundabout way. So, yeah.
Yep.
Never ends.
I got a super chat. Oh, no, it's a Rumble rant. I'm sorry, a Rumble rant from Xeranx. And he says, for $5, thank you, Xeranx. Someone important enough to be heard needs to express how bad someone screws up, failing to get a large audience for a Spider-Man story. Should have happened with Star Wars, but oh well. Yeah, I mean, how do you do that? How do you screw up Spider-Man? Like, it's like a guaranteed win.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they do. So, all right. So that's all the stories, and it's 12:25. So maybe we can talk a little bit about upcoming games or things that we should support. And actually, I want to say one more thing that I've been thinking about. So I think that in terms of like what our cultural cachet or our cultural value, gaming is going to be like, it's the centerpiece. Okay. Like, people, they want to shit on games as a child's distraction or something. But the truth is that film, television, music, sports, all of those are smaller. Video games are for everybody, and they are for young and old. They are not specifically a children's thing, and they are where the culture is, like, in terms of like what ideas are being shared, what's being promoted, where the direction goes. That's where it's happening. The other industries, like Hollywood, is on its last legs. I don't know what's going to change. A lot of people have gone to England, probably to work at the BBC. That's, that can only sustain itself for as long as there are taxpayers. But just like Canada's filmmaking. But movies are on the way out. Something's going to have to give. I think that mostly it's going to happen in the independent space. But in gaming in particular, that is like the bulwark of our culture. So I think that that's why I focus on it, because I can see that this is the future, right?
Right.
It is the future. Like, think about it. You read a really good book, and books, those are also on the decline because the quality of writing is in the toilet. But you read a good book and it sticks with you, but you're still going on a journey. You watch a show, you're going on a journey. A movie, you go on a journey. Maybe it's more intense, but it's shorter, unlike a television series or something that you're into. And I'm not saying there's no good TV or movies out there. But when you're playing a game, it's a different experience because you are in there and you are making decisions. And I think that's the thing that too many people underestimate. Okay. So that's why I push this. I don't think gaming is for kids. I don't think it's childish. I think that there are games for kids, just like there's movies for kids. But I don't think that's like what defines it. Okay. And lots of people, probably people you would not expect, are really into playing video games and the experiences that presents. And that's what my channel is about. And going forward, that's going to be my focus. So like, I want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to be doing on this channel. So let me share my schedule and I'll show you guys. So every month of the year, I'm going to have a stream schedule. It's going to look like this, and it's going to be based on a different theme. This theme is called Ninjanuary. It's going to be ninjas. Okay. So I'm playing nothing but games that involve ninjas in some way, shape, or form. These will be live streams, 2 hours each, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are really the only times I can do it. And you guys can see what I have planned. So next Tuesday, this coming up, Tuesday on the 7th, I'm going to be playing Shinobi on PS2. Then Metal Gear Rising Revengeance on PS3. Then on the following week, Ninja Gaiden Sigma on PS3. Aragami, which is on Steam. Then that's on the 16th. And the week after that, Tenchu Fatal Shadows, which is the 4th Tenchu game. I played the third one earlier this week. And then Nightshade, which is a sequel to Shinobi that I never played. So that should be interesting on PS2. Then the last week is going to be Mark of the Ninja, which is it's made by this great team called Clay. They do these animations, animated games that are very cool. They did this one series called Shank, which I really loved. I don't know if you ever played Shank. You ever heard of Shank?
I have heard of it, but I can't say that I immediately played it. I did.
It's kind of like a Robert Rodriguez type of thing, actually. But what were you going to say? You did what?
I over this last week, I believe, when they were doing all the epic, free games and whatnot, I think I actually picked up a copy of Sifu. If I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Sifu, yeah.
Sifu's
I believe
great.
that. Yeah. That was one of them. So like that, I will probably be seeing if I can get it onto my Steam Deck here in the near future.
It's not really a really demanding. It's not really demanding.
I've seen. I've seen one. I've seen one of my friends play through it because I know like its whole thing is like the idea is to try to get through it while you're young because every time like you hit a setback, like a year of your life goes by and like you're that much older and wiser and whatnot. So it seems like it's a little bit of I think it originally came out like around 2 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's that's my kind of most ninja-y based new game that I've got here. But I will say I like your list. One of them you're playing on my birthday. When's
your birthday?
You will be playing Ninja Gaiden on my birthday.
Ninja Gaiden Sigma?
Yeah.
I'm actually really afraid to play that because that game is really hard, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna go in blind. It's been a while. I did beat that game. I even beat that boss that everyone. You remember the boss in Ninja Gaiden? Well, it was in Sigma and some of the other versions, but there was the one boss. I think it was called Alma, and it was like this female demon. You fight her in church. She was supposedly like the hardest boss, like at the time, hardest boss in gaming. Right. Everybody hated fighting against her. I actually did beat her quicker than I thought I was going to, but I don't know. I think I just lucked out. I don't think I could do that again. Right. And yeah, so then like the last one will be Sekiro. I love Sekiro. I've played through it once, so I've already played the game, but it's been a very long time, and I've been meaning to go back to Sekiro. So I'll probably do Sekiro as my last one, but also I'm going to be interspersing some other games that are like, I couldn't fit into my schedule. So look out for later today, for example, I have me playing through the demo of a game. Holy crap, I keep forgetting the name of the game. It's driving me nuts. But it's let me just put it on let me just look at my Steam page. It's a 2D kind of like Super NES style game that Gabriel Phelan Lucas recommended, called Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. So I have a pre-recorded video of that I'm going to be posting later today, and I'm also going to be doing some other games that are sort of in line with that I couldn't fit into the schedule. For example, there's this one that I heard a lot about called Ghost Runner, I think, and it's like parkour type.
Yeah,
you know about
yeah,
that?
it's like a cyberpunk. It's kind of like, the game. Jesus, it's like the game that EA put out a few years ago, where you play. I think it's Vertical Horizon or something. Not Vertical Horizon, but it's very similar to that, but it's in a very kind of technopunk kind of manner. It's very cyberpunk. You basically are kind of like Ninja from Metal Gear Solid. You're like a cybernetic, and like this badass sword, and like you do wall running.
That's
and
what
all
I
this kind of
thought.
stuff. Yeah. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Not Mirror's Edge. It's called Ghost Runner.
Right. But it is very similar to Mirror's Edge. That was the one that I was thinking of. So yes.
Yeah, it's very similar to that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so be on the lookout for those, and I will be, like I said, uploading some other streams. So, do we have any cake?
I would point people to the games, or not the game stream, but and this is what I'll be doing later days. I do production work for an up and coming creator. She has a show called Scooby Pups Podcast that starts at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And last week, her and Cult Classic Cage, Cassie, they went through and kind of did the games they're looking for in 2025. Quite a few of them were Eastern-based titles with like a whole bunch of different forms of, ninjutsu and interesting combat and things like that. So, and they're coming from like a lot of, I guess, AA developers. Excuse me.
Nice.
And so, like, I would point people to some of the stuff in there. I wish I wrote down the names of them, because there were some really interesting games that I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool, but I can't unfortunately just remember off the top of my head right now, because like I was so caught up in doing the production work that I could actually if you I'll look, because I've got a list of them here in a Discord chat I have with her. If you want to kind of go on some stuff, I'll take a quick look here.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Drop it in there if you want. Okay, so one other thing I wanted to show you all is this. So I'm going to be involved with this. It's the It's Based Game Jam. You guys know that I've hung out with these guys, and they really want me to help them with their jam. I don't know what my role is going to be exactly. I might be doing some hosting or some interviews or whatever. But they did the last game jam they did. The theme was Rome. This year they're doing a game jam. The prize is $1,000 cash for the winter. I think you get like 3 weeks, and we have judges already picked out. So the Jamcast is a quarterly game jam that brings together the most base devs in gaming. The jam has added monster growth on X as well as Discord. We are known for our substantial prize pools, as well as bringing in a whole new audience with our top 5 finals that feature high-profile guest judges. I did interview some of the developers on the previous one, so I will be hopefully I'll get to do that again with these guys. And here are the judges. We're going to have Adam Kriegler and Ian Crossland, who used to be Ian still goes on Tim Pool's show, but these guys are like friends with Tim Pool. Used to be on the Tim cast. And then we have Cabrutus Rambo, who you guys know is the Sweet Baby Ink Detected guy, and I had him on my show before as well. And Andrew Wilson, who is sort of like he runs something called The Crucible. He teaches people how to debate. You've probably seen him on the Whatever podcast like all the time. And
I know these
his
guys were.
wife, Rachel Wilson. I have her book on feminism and the history of feminism. It's called Occult Feminism. And she was supposed to be a guest on my show, but I don't know if like she's just been really busy lately. But I will eventually get them on. And I think Andrew Wilson was asking about me. I guess he was in a chat with them. The guys over at It's Based mentioned it.
Right
and
on.
I was
Yeah,
like, I was busy yesterday. So
I know when they were first starting this up. When I was first starting up the FFS Discord months ago, back in like September, they were talking to me about being involved in this. But I guess since that time, I've kind of gotten caught up doing all the streaming and whatnot. But yeah, if they're looking for,
they might reach out to you. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I was gonna say, let them know that I'm still interested in helping in any way that I can.
All right. So yeah, it's on January 3rd, and the theme for the Game Jam is Restoration/Crusade. So there you go. You can get your King Baldwin on. God wills it, and all that. And I think it'd be great. So. Zeri sent us a Rumble rant, and he says, ask John if the game was everything he wanted, nod to Vertical Horizon. I'll be listening to some songs now after the stream.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can't remember the name of the developer.
You mean the song that goes, he's everything you want?
Yeah. Because when I was, I think, I can't remember the exact name of the company that made Mirror's Edge, but I think it had something, there was, for some reason the word vertical sticks out to me and all, but yeah, that's yeah, you got me good. I found my list though of the stuff that might be interesting to check out, especially if you're interested in Eastern-based games. One of them is Lost Soul Aside, which looked pretty interesting. Where Winds Meet, Phantom Blade, Project
Phantom Blade Zero.
Phantom Blade Zero, yes.
Oh yeah.
And Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. And all of those are like Eastern-based games that all look fairly interesting in their own right. So one of them looks like a kind of like Ghost of Yatai, but not with all the woke shit. And like I mean, it all just like looks like stuff that's like, oh, so like the things that you want to play, mechanics wise, are still going to be coming out this year in various forms. From people that are going to actually focus on the lore of their stories, or the stories of their lore, rather, I guess, probably a better way to say that. And, this is going to be an interesting year for gaming, to be quite honest. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of really good things, but I also think there's still a lot of glut that's coming out. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form at this point in time. Like, I'm doing everything I can to kind of let people down softly as I can for the disappointment that will be known as Grand Theft Auto 6. I have no.
Oh, GTA, nah.
Yeah. That's just going to be a corporate slog fest, and I'm sure it's going to sell well enough, but it's not going to. We've talked about this before. It's not going to be like GTA 5. It's not going to be a thing that transcends consoles for a decade. It can't. I mean, it doesn't have the creative force behind it necessary to actually be that. So, but yeah, the stuff though that, and if you want, if we don't have time to go through all these ones, definitely go check out Scooby Pup's podcast from last Saturday.
Oh, we're gonna look at them. We got time.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
We're gonna look at them now.
Yeah.
So we got 20 minutes. I think we can watch 4 trailers.
Yeah.
Somebody sent a super chat, Dean Domino, and made 2 suggestions right off the bat. So he says some cake, Ion Blade for $1.99. Thank you. Some cake, Iron Blade League, or Ion Blade League. I'm sorry, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And Morbid Metal. So let's start with Ion Blade League. I'm going to put it on the screen. Hopefully this will play and you'll be able to hear it. Let's see. Yes, it is.
Kind of Star Fox vibe.
Yeah, Star Fox, yeah. It's Wipeout, but you're flying.
Right.
And
it's like pod racing.
This is what I call pod racing. All right, that looks good. I dig it. I used to really be into like Wipeout and Road. What was it called? Road Blasters. Anyone remember Road Blasters from the arcades? Spy Hunter.
I remember Road Rage, but
Road Rash.
Road Rash. Yeah. Another one that I really enjoyed back in the day. It was one of those games I kind of regret when I did all my mass sell-off coming back from Seattle was Kinetica, where like you're like in these cybernetic suits and you're on these tracks and like it's an old school game.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh no, it wasn't. Yeah, no, I'm thinking about. There was this really old. It was like very, very early 3D graphics, and it was in the arcades, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a racing game, and the environments were all like CGI, but it was very old CGI, like from the 80s. It was so weird and surreal, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was that was a blast to play.
Yeah.
Probably sucked more than I remember. But like you ever play Mach 3, which was like you had this it was also in arcades only because consoles couldn't do this. It was a Laserdisc game, and they had these you were flying in a jet, kind of like Afterburner.
Yeah, I played the shit out of Afterburner. I will say that.
But the scenery was all like real film footage of like canyons and hills and dunes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one was super cool. I think that was like one of the early inspirations for games like Afterburner that came later when we had that mode 7 scaling action. But anyway. So yeah, that was Ion Blade League, and this is Morbid Metal. So let's see what this one looks like, and then I'll put in yours, John.
Word. This looks good. Yeah.
What?
I get the feeling this is what that intergalactic heretic prophecy is supposed to be evoking, but this actually looks much better.
Different types. Okay, created by Felix. I guess that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. All right, I got another one from Mastergoa. I'm gonna have to prioritize the people who give me a super chat.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, if you want to watch the stuff that I talked about, you can go see the thing from last week. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because that's all they talked about for like 2 hours was these games. So
yeah. Let's see here. So he gave us $2 and said Trail Outs Moto Rush adds motorcycle melee combat. So
nice.
We'll take a look at this. Yeah,
Modern
this is
Road Rash.
I think he mentioned this to me before. I'm fairly certain, and I kind of like I forgot to look into the name of the game. So thanks for bringing this to my attention. Now it's in my history. So let's take a look at this.
Indeed. Oh, nice.
shit, Scooters. He deserves to die.
Dude, this is pretty awesome. Not gonna lie, I'm digging it.
Bicycles. The guitar. They have different weapons.
Scooters.
Kill it.
Yes. Great.
All right.
Motor Rush. Yeah, dude, that looks great.
It does look good. There might be a little bit more here. That Ghost Rider? What? What?
It's certainly Ghost Rider inspired if it's not.
Well, it's either Ghost Rider or Mr. Grimm from Twisted Metal, but
right.
I have a feel it looks more Ghost Rider than not. The old Nicolas Cage one. That's the
right.
one it looks like.
Right.
So, yeah, that looks impressive.
I
Richard
can't
Beer
understand
says,
why anybody at this point in time, like, if you do not have a PS5, do not get one. Just
no.
you know, like consoles are so dead. Like
They are.
Yeah.
I was thinking about getting a Steam Deck with my bonus, but I'm not sure. I'm on the fence.
Well,
bad
as somebody who
because-
owns a Steam Deck, I can tell you, I that's actually kind of my initiative for this year. I'm trying to figure out. I want to get a second Steam Deck, right? And the reason I want to get a second Steam Deck is I want to take the one that I have currently and install Windows on it. But install it to the actual SSD drive because I've got it on a flash drive.
Which one do you have? The 512 or the 1 terabyte? The OLED?
I have what was the original top of the line before they did the OLED. So if I can get a new one, I would like to get an OLED. But at this point in time, I kind of just want to get a second one so that I can have one running Windows and I can have one running Linux because my laptop's the thing that's failing, right? And but here's the cool thing about Steam Deck. This has got a Ryzen processor in it. And so this is something I figured out over the course of the last few weeks that I will pass along to everybody as a nice little tip. So I had to, for this production work I'm doing, I needed to make a video clip file. And I just went and I tried to do I use OBS to rip videos, through the internet. Which is a great way if you're ever looking to try to get a hold of something, keep a copy for yourself, download OBS and, just do it that way. But it was bogging down and it was having buffer overruns and everything like that. And it's just like 2 minutes of video. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try something. Because when I first started my YouTube channel, it was actually called Awesome Deck. And it was about all the amazing things you do with Steam Deck. And I did some pretty interesting things with remote broadcasting, all kinds of interesting, crazy stuff. And so one of my friends that I stream with on Reality Based did a live stream a couple weeks ago, and he was using his Steam Deck to run the stream basically. And so that just kind of it was in my head again. I was thinking about the stuff I used to do, and so I went and I loaded up OBS because I've got it installed on my Steam Deck, and I just used it to do this simple rip. And this is the best rip quality I've ever gotten off of any system ever that I've used.
Really?
Because it's got a Ryzen 5 processor in there. Quite honestly, the Steam Deck itself with the Ryzen 5 processor costs basically the price of a Ryzen 5 processor. So what my thought is I want to get 2 Steam Decks. I want to have one running Windows to replace my laptop and have my current setup going, and the other one running Linux so that I can have it as my game server. And between these 2 systems, I should be able to take care of all my video production needs, do all this kind of stuff, have a very streamlined kind of thing. And I'll be the guy who actually runs a YouTube channel powered by Steam Decks, which I think is just weird and crazy and a weird twisted flex that it'll just kind of boggle people's minds.
That's you, though.
That is me. So, yeah.
I got my wife a gaming laptop, because I wanted to play Helldivers with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got her a Ryzen 5 laptop.
Nice.
That's her laptop. And I feel like she doesn't, it's like she doesn't use it to its potential. I'm like, you're not doing anything with this.
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting. I want to ask the audience though. So I have $1,000 bonus. My Christmas bonus was $1,000. I'm on the fence, but I'm thinking about getting a Steam Deck because my machine is 5 years old. And I think it's just starting to show its age, and newer games are becoming more and more of a challenge for me to run on my current machine. Would it be good to get a Steam Deck, or do you think I should save the money and invest in just a whole new rig? You know, I mean, like a lot of the components for my current rig I can just bring over. But I don't know. Like the thing is 5 years old. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on that. Let me get one of your suggested games. I'm going to like do a search on it really quick.
Yeah. Let's do the. I think the one that I'm going to suggest then is Where Winds Meet. That one is the one that really sticks out in my head.
Winds Meet. I think I've seen the trailer for this. Maybe. Nope. This is not. Yeah, I did watch this trailer because it shows here that I watched some of it. But let's take a look anyways. All right, so I'm gonna put it up. There might be an ad, though there isn't. That's good. Okay, I've been lucky on that. All right, let me just put it up on the screen for you guys to see. And this is Where Winds Meet. Announcement trailer, and it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's like the one that I was saying is like Wukong, but not Wukong, but like Ghost of Yusai, but not, I think.
Oh yeah, there's definitely more Chinese, I think.
Yeah,
but still.
Yeah, this one's like Neo. The other one I'm thinking of is the Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. That's the other one that's more like Ghost of Yusai. Visually, this is stunning.
It is.
And much like everything else that comes out on PlayStation, will probably be on Steam as well.
Looks good. There's a lot of these kinds of games coming out. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I may have to do another Kung Fu month, like maybe next year or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Your Ninja can be an annual thing.
Sweet. Yeah, well, so like January is Nin January, and February is FPS February. I'm gonna do first-person shooters, like some classics that I've been meaning to play again, like Resistance, Killzone,
right.
Halo, the old ones, you know.
Right on.
So, yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're at the end here, so I'm gonna wrap the show up if that's cool. But you guys check that stuff out. Steam Deck is viable if you don't mind playing on low settings. Yeah, otherwise get a laptop.
I will say there are a few bottleneck issues that you can encounter, but for the most part, if you get a dock unit for it and run it in desktop mode, you can run 4K on it if you got a 4K monitor.
The thing is that the main reason why I'm on the fence is that I'm not really like I don't need a portable,
right?
And that seems to be like the primary draw. So like if
you know, I mean
that's what people say, you know.
Right. As the way that I've used it, you know, like I mean that definitely has that aspect to it. I often call Steam Decks 21st century laptops just because they've got like a little bit more of a smaller footprint, but then they've got like all the different kind of ins and outs that you can do with them. But if you get a dock for it and like you're comfortable enough with working with Linux, I mean, it is amazingly good system for more than just like, and that's why I said I want to get a second one, because I'm basically going to like, you know, like have one that's just always here as like a mid-tier desktop system that doesn't cost, you know, twice as much. Because I like kind of have to like think about these things in terms of a budget, and it's like, oh well, you know, like if I can get a system that's basically built around a really good processor rather than having to buy all these components. So, but yeah, like you can ask me about it outside of the show, of course. If you have other questions, but
Well, I'm also thinking about one other thing. Richard Beer says there are many PCs out there that do have multiple monitor support. Yeah, I know. And there's like some new like processor that's supposed to be really, really powerful and really cheap. I just started hearing about it, but I have to look it up. So like real quick though, another thing is I'm getting so my current machine, my setup runs on Windows 10, and I'm getting messaging from Microsoft that they're going to stop supporting Windows 10 like in 2025. I think it's like at the end of the year or something.
Yeah.
Of 2025. And I don't know if it would make sense, but maybe if I just switch over to, I don't have any experience with Linux, but if I switch over to a Linux system, would that also give my computer more, let's say,
breathing room?
Would it make it run? Yeah, more ability to run more efficiently. Like
you can always you can always get Steam OS and install it on there as a secondary OS and get comfortable with it. Because I mean that's the other thing too is like Steam OS is supported by Valve, so it's really good in that regard. And in recent years, these Linux-based OSs have become more robust and kind of more capable than a lot of the bloatware that ends up happening with Windows-based operating systems. So I mean, that's definitely. But I do agree with someone in the chat said much as they like their Steam Deck, it might be better to like put that money towards a rig, because I mean like they have a very kind of like they're particular, and if you've got like a setup for it, like it's really great if you know what you're wanting to do with it, and if you're already kind of familiar with Linux, it's really good in that regard. But if it's something that you're just kind of wanting to like play around with and you don't want to dive in fully, then yeah, you might just try installing Steam OS on your current system and see if that gives it a little bit more breathing room, because running through Proton makes a lot of games that have that they get bogged down in your Windows settings a little bit more efficient, because the Proton takes care of a lot of the ins and outs, and Linux is definitely a far more efficient operating system in terms of what you got with like all the back end.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. Well, yeah, I gotta talk to Allison about we're already going to be doing a fundraiser to go so I can go to the inauguration. I am going to be going to the inauguration.
That's cool.
And I'm going to do a meetup too in Virginia. It's going to be me, Mike, Dr. Random McCam. He's one of the guys on the Honey Badger show. Lauren and Hannah and Lindsay and maybe JoJo, but I might have to like leave him with a sitter. So right. Yeah, so like be on the lookout for more details regarding that, or follow me over on Honey Badger Radio. The channel's actually called Badger Live Streams. Is where most of my content is made there. That's my main job. This is something of a passion project for me. So, all right. With all that said, thank you guys for coming on the show. I ended right on time. I didn't have any technical problems at all. I'm happy with myself. 2025 is looking.
Yeah, I think we came over our technical issues with some very simple ideas that worked really well today.
That's right.
That's the magic.
Yeah, KISS. All right. Well, anyway, thanks guys for coming on the stream and hanging out. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, to the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. Check out the links to mine and John's Discord servers in the description of this video. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture. And we will see you all next Saturday. Long live Vivian. Have a good weekend, guys.
Safe travel.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt,
and to an extent the air is salt. And you breathe that in and you can constantly taste the salt.